All right, so that's a crazy question. Why insurance needs technology? Well, it seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Well, it's not, because I want to take a different look at why we need technology. So what I'm going to do is talk about where we are as an industry, or even go even broader and look at where we are as an economy and see how we fit into that. And some of you may be wondering, well, why does he get to talk about this? What gives him the authority to speak on this subject? Well, what I'm going to do is share my screen so you can see my slides. Now, I created just a few slides so we can talk about a couple of subjects, and I want to open it up so that you can ask me questions as we talk about where we are as a industry and where we're going as an economy, and why technology, specifically InsuredMine, is a valuable piece in our, not necessarily our tech stack, but in our solutions that we use in an agency. I was working on a piece. Let me get my screen ready here to share, because I had a particular product that I was using. All right. So, admit these folks here that are coming in. Looks like we got a few folks coming in the waiting room. So, I know you guys can't see my screen just yet, right?
Okay. No, we can see your screen. We can't.
All right. So can we see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. So just a little bit about me. I've been in this space. I've been in insurance for 20 years. First as a licensed agent, working in a retail shop. I ended up leaving the retail side. We had 37 locations in 2 states, focused, just primarily on personal lines. And I left that to go to the tech side, where I worked as VP of sales for insurance technologies. There, it opened my mind into a world that was much broader than what I was used to when it came to the insurance. Looking at the, from the carrier side, looking at that from the technology side, and then also having my background in the agency side. Left that to start InsurTech startup, which focused on connecting independent agents and regional carriers to third parties that are tangential to insurance, generating leads, business development for insurance agents. So my focus has always been on the independent agency channel. And as I, did the startup, I was able to form relationships with organizations that are outside of the U.S. And I got to see a more global picture, and I realized just how far behind we are. I'm not a programmer. I don't know code. I can barely spell IT. But having these experiences made me realize there's some gaps in insurance that we aren't aware of. And so I currently have a patent pending on pricing risk using artificial intelligence and third-party data. Third-party data. So why do we need technology? I said third-party data again for a reason. Well, this is a quote from the Chief Analytics Officer from Estee Lauder. Now, granted, I don't wear makeup, but I do think what she said is extremely important. Know what data matters most. Prioritize it. Build the discipline to protect and govern it. Then democratize the data to enable your data specialists and end users to extract the data they need to innovate. And that's really important because every organization is different. And you have to know what data matters most to you. Now, in insurance, we know that data is king, right? That's what insurance carriers base everything on. Everything's based on that information that we collect, and that is used to formulate rates, to configure how we're going to underwrite certain risks, even on the claim side. Now, if we go back to the front end from an agency standpoint, is data the most important thing? You know, as a salesperson, as an insurance agent, yes, it is, and so is the relationship. I'd value value it as much as the data, because everybody has similar products, similar pricing, but what separates it? It's that relationship we have with that person that's in front of us, or the phone, or whatever channel that we're communicating with them in. That's how we distinguish ourselves in this crazy market. And making no mistakes, this market is crazy. I mean, from a carrier standpoint, with the way we've had, COVID throw things off, and you have all the major carriers giving back money during COVID and now realizing, oh crap, we need that money now. We've seen, frequencies go up. We've seen severity unmanageable because of all the problems in the supply chain, logistically, globally. So we're in a crazy time, and never has there been in the history of insurance a more important time for data and for relationship management. And historically, we didn't really have a tool to help us manage the relationship. We had tools to help us manage policies, right? But the relationship is the most important thing. And as someone who comes from the agency side, I look back in hindsight and go, duh, why didn't we think about this in the very beginning? Why didn't we manage the relationship to start, or use tools that helped us manage that first? Because, it's about that client more so than it is about that policy. I think we're all in agreement on that. If not, raise your hand and tell me why not. But I'll get to those why nots or whys in just a second. So data and relationships, right? Well, when we look at data, there's more than just one type of data, and it can be segmented and broken down into many different ways. But for our purposes, we want to look at three things. First party data, which is your information that you have in your agency. Second party data, which is the data that you are able to collect from partnerships that you have with other businesses, say, vendors, like your lead providers, your carriers. If they can extract information from your client base that gives you more insight into your client, that would be considered second party data. Third party is that information you receive on your clients where it has no relationship with you, where you're not gathering that information, you're not getting that information from the client. It's information that you're collecting so that you have a more rounded picture of your consumers that are on your books, and also those prospects that are coming into your agency. So first party data, second and third party. So if you had to guess which would be the most important of the three, well, I'm going to have to say first party data, because you have access to that. It's your clients, and we all know that it's cheaper to keep somebody on the books than it is to get new clients. Now, there's some folks out there who may disagree that it's not cheap either way. There's the cost of doing business and keep folks on your books, as well as there's a cost to get business in. But the thing is, the more information you know, the better you'll be able to manage that process. And you can't do it all in your head. We can all agree on that, right? There was back in the day, I'm sure we're all familiar with the old images of salespeople, the life insurance guy going door to door, knocking on doors, getting doors slammed into his face. Well, he's no different than you or me, or she's no different than you or me. Why do I say that? Well, because they were focused on data as well. The difference between them and us is we now have the ability to store significantly more data and process more data than that life insurance salesman could in their head. Because, make no mistake, they did use the data from getting the door slammed and remembered with their computer in their mind what to do and what not to do on the next call. how do I keep this person on books? What do I need to do to keep this person working with me versus going to another agency? Well, all that information was stored previously in our brain. Well, somebody got smart and created, an AMS. And we used that as best we could to keep that client on the books and to keep track of our clients. But we all learned that there's only so much you can do with something that's focused on a policy versus focused on a relationship. So those two are the most important things in our space: data and relationships, and they always have been. I think the third element that we're seeing come up today, which is, while it's not as important, it will be shortly, which is AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, because that gives us the ability to process a greater amount of data and use it to help improve those relationships that we have with our clients. And when we're looking at the relationship, obviously we want to get as much data as we can out of our system so that we can improve that relationship. So what are some of the things that we want to look at? We want to look at our first party data for that relationship and find, for lack of a better term, patterns, which is what we do in insurance anyway, right? We find patterns and we group things into buckets. How do we do that? Well, first you have to know who is an important client to you. Well, traditionally, what we looked at in insurance was retention, right? We look at closing percentages. Well, as we've gotten access to more information, we've actually gotten smarter. So we don't just look at retention, we look at lifetime value. How much is this person worth over the length of a policy term? Well, in order to know that, we have to know what is the average time the client's with us, okay? Well, in order to know that, we have to be able to put information in a solution, in a system that's going to keep track of our clients, what the amount of premium they're paying, and it also has to provide reports so that we can extrapolate that information and make it useful to us. And every agency is different, okay? First, let me apologize. I talk fast. I'm from Louisiana, and I had Invisalign, so if I sound like I've been drinking, I have not. It's my Louisiana and my lack of Invisalign that may be throwing you off there. So first party data is the most important thing that we have, and having a tool that we can use to help us manage that data and get insight from that data. Because when you look at data, it's just like a recipe for baking a cake. If you had a list that said 4 eggs, flour, sugar, it'd be useless. You have no idea what that's for. Somebody just threw that at you, right? So you have to have insight into it, and you have to put it in context. Same thing with your data. When you're looking at your client's file, your client file and your client information, you have to understand what's important to you and why is it important to you. How is that going to help you grow, or how is it going to help you improve those relationships with your clients? Now, there was a study done 3 years ago by Salesforce and Newsweek and a third party, which for the life of me, I can't remember. But they asked 300 insurance executives, and they asked consumers what's important to them when it came to insurance. And I wish I had the chance to throw this up to get your opinions. What if you had a list of 5 things and you had to rank them 1 through 5? What would you feel would be the most important things that consumers wanted when working with an insurance entity? Would you say it's mobile? Would you say it's the advisor? Would you say it's competitive pricing? Let's look at just really those 3. Can you guess what would most people in our space say? And I know everybody's muted, so they can't speak. And I know I don't have a poll up, but I really would have liked to have had that poll so you guys can see. But what I'm going to do is show you what the executive said and what the insurance buyer said. There's been all this talk, and I'd say it's been going on since, gosh, before Google came into the space. You guys remember when Google decided to do insurance in the US? That was interesting. I actually worked with them on, getting into this market. But there was that period where everybody was talking about the agents going away. Everybody's going to go direct. Well, it sounds nice in theory that, you create a channel to the consumer, which is, more streamlined. But in the process of trying to streamline things, you take out what makes insurance unique, which is the relationship. And so part of the concern that a lot of folks in our space have is if we implement all these technologies and we start automating these processes, are we going to remove that personal touch? Are we going to remove the relationship? No, we're not going to remove the relationship, and we're not going to remove the independent agent. Consumers want someone that they can trust. They want someone who's knowledgeable that can help them. Sure, if you can create a process, even as an agency, that makes it easier for the consumer to make that buying decision, that's what you want to do. You don't have to remove yourself from the equation, but you want to remove as much friction as possible. And you do that by having as much insight into your individual, clients and their buying habits as you can. Now, not everybody's going to want to do everything on their mobile phone. Some people are actually going to want a phone call. And I've got a study, which I apologize, I wasn't able to put it up, but I've got a study which shows, the primary mode of contact in all industries for consumers is still the phone. Okay. Second is text. And it's actually gotten pretty close, but number one is phone. Phone has been for ages, but text is number two. 10 years ago, it wasn't text, it was email. So executives, you see this, which I thought was interesting, they thought that consumers wanted a mobile app. They wanted an app on their phone so they can talk to insurance. Now, insurance folks, I don't know about you, but I can't see much use for an insurance app. Most people don't have a claim every month. Most people don't need to talk to their agent every month. If you have an app that has value that they will use consistently, then it makes sense. Geico was just rated the #1 insurance app in the country. And obviously, I'm sure there's some of you guys out there who have amazing apps, but they were just looking at the big guys. Mobile apps aren't the most important thing. It's knowledgeable salespeople, quick and easy checkout is number two, and product comparison tools. They like to know what they're getting and compare. Now, granted, if you're going to do a comparison tool, use a comparison rater that's consumer facing, don't show 30 companies, don't show 30 carriers. 3 to 5 is your max that you want to do, because you want the consumers to choose, but you don't want to give them too great of a choice. And why is that? Well, because one, they are not going to make a buying decision. They're going to be paralyzed by their analysis. As we say, paralysis by analysis. So give them a few choices, but don't give them too many. So contrary to popular belief, consumers don't want to be just disconnected from us. They actually do want someone they can trust that has some knowledge that can help them make that buying decision. So when we look at data and we look at our relationship, we know that the way we have our relationship with our clients has changed, and it's changed even greater in the last 3 years thanks to COVID. Anybody out there catch COVID? Yeah, it was fun, let me tell you. And coffee was the worst. I felt like I was drinking, dirty water for a week. It was horrible. And I apologize if my COVID was just a small size COVID compared to some of you. But yeah, it was still no fun at all. So, but looking at the relationship, that's equally as important as the information that we receive from our clients, our first party data. So the relationship has changed. We want to communicate with our clients in a way that shows we understand them. And we've gone from globally, not just in the US, but worldwide, from being customer focused. You guys, some of you who've been in this industry for a while, remember in the 90s and 2000s, it was all about having great customer service. Well, nobody cares about great customer service because everybody should have that. Then it went to being customer focused. You've got to be customer centric. No, you've got to be customer engaged. we went from having a one-way conversation with consumers to having a two-way conversation. And that's where, the younger generation sees value. It's not about price. Price plays an important role. That's the hook. But really, it's about communicating with them through the channel they want and having an open line of communication. In insurance, we don't want customers. We want clients. So we want to make sure that we have long-term relationships with these folks, like a marriage. We don't want to date people. We want to marry them. We want to have a long-term relationship. And what are long-term relationships founded on? Trust and communication. No relationship's going to last if one person is telling the other person what to do all the time. That's not a marriage, okay? And I know, I've been divorced. So we have to communicate and have open lines of communication with our clients. That's why SEO is a way to show that you have value. So for those of you who don't have your SEO optimized, your search engine optimization optimized, it's extremely important that you do that, because if you are local, you're competing against folks that are national. You're going to get better value if you do the little things you need to do, which is engage with your clients, than those larger guys, because you're in that market. And how do you engage? Where do you engage? Well, you engage in social. You think that SEO is just about, being on Google with your website. No, SEO is more than that. SEO is about communicating on social, having engagements on social. And social used to be just Facebook, right? Now social entails TikTok. And I don't know how many of you have a TikTok channel, but you should. It's one fun way to show the personality of your agency. LinkedIn, you need to have your LinkedIn updated. You need to be on LinkedIn first off, and engage with folks on LinkedIn, especially if you do any commercial. And you don't neglect your traditional channels. So if you have a storefront, retail, make sure you're doing some marketing that generates traffic to that location, even if it's just partnerships with those businesses around you. If you can offer something of value to a business that's in your plaza, or a business that is, ancillary to insurance, speaking of from the auto standpoint, a tire shop, oil change place, if you can offer your clients their services, you'll see it reciprocated. I've seen that happen numerous times. So we've got to find ways to strengthen that relationship with our clients. And when we're talking about technology, we're not going to look so much on the traditional side as we are going to look on the social and SEO. So when we're speaking about social, it's not hard, but it's not easy. It's about consistency. So that means posting weekly on certain channels, daily on certain channels, and multiple times a day on other channels. Now, none of us that work in an agency have the time to do that, especially when you're speaking about the smaller agencies where it's like 3-5 people. You're wearing multiple hats, everybody is. And you've got folks coming in, you've got calls coming in. How do you manage that time to stay in front of your clients, to engage with them, where it's not just you pushing out content, it's actually you responding to things they say, communicating with them on those channels? Well, that's InsuredMine. That's the simplest way to put it, because you're really going to need, it's not an accessory. It is a need in your agency, part of your tech solution, your tech stack, having that CRM, because there's only so many hours in a day. I used to tell agencies who, hadn't done anything on social, hadn't done anything on SEO with SEO, give yourself 1 hour a week to start. Just, that's it. And if that first week, all you do is learn, you don't do any posting, okay, that's good. But you got to start small. You can't run before you can walk. And when it comes to SEO, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You set no expectations that you're going to see improvement in 2 months, in 3 months, 6 months at the very minimum. But the way you get some torque, the way you speed up that and add power to that SEO and to the engagement, is using a CRM where you can automate those tasks. one of the cool things you can do is on a Sunday, think about the channels you want to post. Think about, meaning where do you want to put out your content. Think about what you want to say, and do it all on a weekend so that you don't have to do it during the week where you're really focused on the engagement, where you're in the office or you're dealing with the clients. Now, you want to respond to everything, obviously, as timely as you can, but schedule your outbound posts at a time where it's not going to take away from generating revenue, if that makes sense. There's so much on this topic that we can go into, and I could talk forever, but I don't like talking. I'd much rather listen to you talk or answer your questions. So the most important thing I'm going to leave you with this is, remember, you've got to understand your data, and you've got to maximize your relationship with your clients and your prospect. And the easiest way to do that, and the most impactful way to do that, is through a CRM. And right now, and it's not me being biased, but the CRM out there that's available to us that enables you to do that best is InsuredMine. That's my presentation for now. Again, I could talk for hours on this, but I want to open up to questions on, some best practices, or any questions on the channels or the data.
To see if they have implemented the SEO in their website, if they have any marketing strategy, and also how do they find the new clients, via website, referrals, social media.
Well, right now, I know it's tough because we all know the average age of the insurance professional is 59, and so with that being said, and I'm right below that, kind of. It's tough jumping onto those new channels like TikTok and trying to create content that that will engage, that will get people to follow you, that will get some 5-figure numbers behind the likes. Don't focus on that. Focus on being authentic to your agency and what's important to your agency and the personality of your agency. So don't change who you are. If your agency is stoic, is a term I'd use when it comes to things like this. If you're more stoic, if you're not, a comical type of agency brand, don't be comical. Focus on your strengths and on your personality so that you get the clients that are valuable to you. If comedy is your brand's message, go with it. I mean, there's a couple brands there's one from Washington State, Vern Funk, and there's one from Texas, Rodney DeYoung. Horrible commercials, just the worst commercials you've ever seen. But they were campy, and because they're so bad, people loved them. I mean, seriously, they were like, I was watching, as an example, Rodney DeYoung commercials on YouTube 10 years after they aired because they were just hilarious. So if that is the way that you market yourself, by all means, don't change just because this channel is geared a certain way. Do it the way that accents your personality. That makes sense. Mama, you're usually talking. Anybody have any questions, concerns regarding their SEO, their social channels, or their data? If you say data, I'm going to turn it over to Rawson.
So maybe in the next session that it's going to be Abby Mitchell. She's going to talk us about social media marketing.
Yes, so that was a great segue, actually, because yes, our next our next session is going to be on social media marketing. And now you get to take a look inside what an agency is doing using InsuredMine to help that engagement process. So I gave us 10 minutes here to ask questions, get some feedback. All right, so our poll. Do you have implemented SEO on your website? Good. Most have. And SEO changes so much. You know, one of the key items that search engines look for now is multimedia content. So make sure that you've got either someone on your site speaking, someone on your site doing a video, and they can be simple explainer videos. Everybody, here's something that I recommend that you do. There's not an agent out here who hasn't had a weird, odd question from a consumer. Why not do a video with an answer to that? Or we all have seen FAQs. Why not do video FAQs? Because there's a lot of questions you get asked day to day in the agency that are time consuming, but they need to be answered, you know, when those folks call. Why not do video FAQs, post those on your site so that those questions get answered? Now, the thing about FAQs is what's a frequently asked question today may not be a frequently asked question tomorrow or a year from now. So you want to make sure you keep that content updated on your FAQ. Make sure that your CSRs, your account managers, or the folks that are having that contact with the clients provide feedback into what those questions are. And again, use your video, use your audio, as opposed to just typing it, because that's going to increase your value to the search engine. Do you consider that your agency has a digital marketing strategy to reach out to more clients? It's about half and half. And I think folks use the term strategy loosely, saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. That's not really a strategy. That's kind of like an agency dream. We're going to do this. So when you think of strategy, think of it as what is your end goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And this is how we're going to get there. You're mapping that out. So otherwise, it's just a dream. You got to have that plan going, what you're trying to accomplish, and working backwards from there. So if your goal is to increase sales, increase your policies per client by 2 points. So as an example, you have 1.2 policies per client. Well, you want to get that up to 1.4 per client. Well, why? Well, you should be able to know based on what your lifetime value per client is. If they have 2 policies with you, they're generating this much revenue. So that slight increase in policies per person is going to increase revenue. The tools that you use in InsuredMine can help you do that. Engaging with your clients is going to help you do that. Knowing, looking at your first person data and seeing, what, not just policy information, but what Susan, one of the things that she said, I'm sorry, I'm going back a little quick. Susan mentioned the survey they do after they sell. Every single one of you should be doing a post-sales interview, sending out a survey, asking them what they liked, what they didn't like, and then also ask them questions that aren't necessarily insurance related so that you can start understanding your client. So you want to give giveaways. So ask them things about, I'm trying not to give away something that someone would want me to, and get too personal as far as when it comes to kids and family. But think of ways to increase your knowledge with your clients on a personal level versus just on an insurance servicing level, if that makes sense. Because the better you know them and their likes and dislikes, not just as it relates to insurance, the more likely they are to stay with you, even if they have to pay more. Because it's not about just the price, it's about understanding why that price is what it is. So how do you find your new clients? Websites, referrals, social media. And for you 75% of the folks that said referrals, I just want to say as an insurance agent, I know you're lying. That's what we say when we don't know, we say referrals. If you're getting most of it from referrals, you're not getting enough business, or you're the most amazing agent I've ever met in my life. Because most referrals aren't tracked. I've met a couple of agencies that have done a phenomenal job with referrals. I know one that was writing almost 1,000 policies a month, and I'm not making it up. And it was referral business. but they had a consistent and repeatable routine, a process in place so that they had a referral manager actually that would manage those referrals, that would actively go out and ask for more referrals. And once a referral was given, they would then go out manually and do a thank you. Now, when you have a CRM, you can automate that thank you process from those referrals, which is crucial to you getting even more referrals. But I'm gonna have to just call most of y'all out who said give us your business from referral. Hopefully, you'll learn and see value in these sessions so that you can go for more referrals and make it social media. And again, social media, a lot of the times, unless you're going to pay ad, that's a type of referral actually, and that's where you want to go. One more piece of insight before I move on to our next session. When we're talking about social media, there's a lot of folks, larger companies, spending money on social media influencers. And when you're looking at advertising dollars, that's not a bad place to put your money. It's better than the Yellow Pages. I actually got a phone book a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "What in the hell?" I'm sorry about that. But yeah, social media and social media influencers are a good place to spend your revenue dollars. But you want to be cautious, or your marketing dollars. You want to be cautious and make sure that the influencer is not a mega influencer. You want to find an influencer between 1,000 to 10,000 followers. And the reason being is because I've got studies that I can forward to anybody who's interested, but they found that those followers of those influencers are more likely to purchase the items that those influencers recommend. And the most important reason, in my opinion, is those guys are so much less expensive than the people who have followings of 10,000 and above. 100,000 and more is going to be probably too much for most folks to handle. But if they have a following between 1,000 to 10,000 and their values and their content aligns with your agency, by all means, find a way to reach out to them directly, or there's numerous social media influencer marketing channels where you can work with them to help you, find the influencer that's going to be best or be the best fit for your agency.